Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to make this as interactive as we can. I have a few questions from some of the family-owned businesses that we've worked with in the past, and I'm going to pose those questions to Manu and Mr. Rangnath, and then after that, open it up. So keep your questions ready so that we can make this an interactive session. The first is, as Mr. Rangnath pointed out to me in a conversation earlier today. Actually, Manu is not involved with their business, and he's made that conscious decision. So maybe we'll start by asking you what prompted you to make that decision and get both your perspectives on, how you thought about involving the family in your enterprise.
Good afternoon. First of all, thanks, Harsh, for giving the opportunity. Any amount of time I hear you, I take a lot of take-home values. Thank you very much. I think one thing that very impressed upon is many things you talked about. I think the values, how you went about building the culture about it, accumulating talent. I think that's also very, very important. One bit, I think, what you mentioned is anything you take that you keep a long-term view in perspective, which is very important. A lot of times, I think you tend to have very short-term. You don't build an enduring organization. Very nice. Thank you very much again. So thanks, Guns. So there was a session in at YPO. We had a session, and wherein the next generation was called, and they were talking about their aspirations and so on. And Manu was also called. So he said, "I won't join Dad's business. So I will do something on my own. Maybe after 10 or 15 years' time, when I prove, I may think of joining back." So I think at that time he was only at 11th standard. That's what kind of thing. I think I'm very happy that he lived that. He's continuing to do that. Even time and again he asked me, "Dad, do I need to come to your business? Why can't it be board managed?" That's good. I said it can be. Nothing wrong, and you don't need to. There is no compulsion that you need to come to family business. And as long as it's board managed, it's okay. You take care of the governance part. And sometimes even governance is also delegated. You bring in the best quality board managed this thing. Even I think one of the very good learning for me from Harsh is again how well he has structured the board. He is an excellent example across this part of the world to say that how a very effective board can be constructed. He has become an authority. A lot of people seek advice to him. So I think it's nice to see that someone has the perspective that he would like to build, he would like to have his own fiefdom and freedom to build. So he feels that I should be respected. When he was in college first year, he told me, "Dad, there is a growing fear in me." Kind of. I said, "What? Why should you have a growing fear?" He said, "I have to prove myself because you have done to some extent. So how would the organization accept and so on? Therefore, I think, will I be living up as your worthy son?" That's the kind of question he asked me. I said, "You don't need to worry. Everybody has their own kind of thing. You put in your efforts, you'll come." I'm very happy once he has come from the school, the college. He has started his own. And in the last 2.5 years now, I think June, July, when it comes, it will be 3 years. So he has built a nice entity. And he has a vision, he has a drive, passion. I think that's I'm very heartened to do that. I'm also not very sure or inviting or insisting that he has to join the family business. It need not be.
Manu, your perspective, what prompted you to think of it that way at that stage, early, when you were just in the 11th standard, to consciously plow your own furrow, so to speak?
So, hi everybody. Thank you, ASCENT, for having me here. It's a pleasure to talk to all of you here. I think, first of all, my dad's family is made of entrepreneurs. So, he was my biggest inspiration when I was growing up, and I was always I always wanted to create something on my own. I didn't want to step into, his shoes. And even if I did that one day, I felt that, I should go there based on merit instead of just being his son. So that was always there inside me. And yeah, so that's how I decided.
Okay, great. But you're involved with the governance and you've involved the children with the governance. How can you ensure that they perform their roles on the board effectively and exercise the responsibility that comes with that position as a member of the board?
You're asking him? Or?
As of now, my son and two daughters, they are involved. They are on the board. They are learning the ropes of it. Honestly, I think that's new to them in terms of they are finding each one of them have their own businesses, and they're actively involved in their business. And this one, whenever the board meet comes, they come here and they start getting into, oh, this is the way it is discussed. They're finding their feet. And also offline during dinner time and so on, I feed them with a lot of inputs as to what is happening in the business, what are the important things that's going on, the positive ones and not so the positive ones. All these things are shared. How we deal with them, all these kind of things. I think they get to learn the kind of quite a lot of time. I think it's time and again it's the values. I think if that is right within the family members, I think most of the things are right. And that's very important. So we also have a structured family forum. I'll talk about that later. That also helps as to how we do.
How's it been for you as being a board member and participating in the board discussions and steering the ship? And, more importantly, if there are differences of opinion that you have, you, your sisters, your father, how do you resolve those differences and how do you also ensure that professional managers in the company, if they sense those differences, don't exploit those differences between you all?
So, as he's as he said, we so the board meetings are more of a learning experience. So we don't have any differences as such, and we don't have that much understanding in the business to take decisions. So it's more of a learning experience, and we take inputs from those meetings and go to our businesses and make changes. So
So one of the things Manu and my other two daughters asked me was in few of the meetings, board meetings, when the company performance was not up to the mark, and the board of directors literally tore me apart. And they said, "What, Dad? You are the largest shareholder. People are just ripping you apart. You have built the company and so on." I said, "You are answerable. The moment you have bring in somebody, they are all equal shareholders. They have the voice. They are interested in the well-being of the company. They have invested. They have to kind of thing." That's very important. That's growing in them. Okay, it's not that how much wealth the share you own is not important, but it is the responsibility to each and every shareholder, whether they are small or big. I think it's very important. I think you have to responsibly answer and kind of thing. It's very important and manage the company.
Great. Now, you left open the possibility that the children will join the business in a management role. And we discussed these three intersecting circles earlier of ownership, governance, and management. At the moment, you've kept them, or they're involved on the ownership and the governance side, and you're the only one who's at the intersection set of all three. What are some ways in which you've been thinking about how to induct them into management so that they can come in and at the same time not upset the apple cart as far as the professional organization and values that you've built? So, for those in the audience who potentially may be thinking later of inducting children, what's a good way to do it in your opinion?
I think as a father, I will do my best, but as a head of the company, I would like that to be only meritocracy. So that's very important. So therefore, what I have done is I told all my three children that they have to do something on their own. It's purely meritocracy. There is no I am this, I am the eldest, you are the youngest. All these things doesn't work here. So that has been very clearly told to them. All my three children are aware of that. So I told them that each one will be given a small capital and they have to build on it. The idea is not to give them very large capital because large capital comes with a lot of other this thing. The experience, the lot of experience on their own, dirtying their hands is far more important. It should be more efforts based than capital intensive based. So that's a very important thing I laid down. I'm happy that also I told them that the best, whoever comes out as the best in terms of that, you need to accept the leadership of the best. So I think they are aligned to that thought. They are working on that, and I think time only will tell. So I am not very sure that, as Manu was asking me also, that they may be staying only at the board level. I'm not sure they will be actively engaged in the day-to-day management. Depends on their interest and perseverance and their understanding. But the leadership is one very important thing that we are looking at. And also, like what Sandeep has presented, we also have a family structure. I also see that as a wealth management is a very important thing, that what they are presenting, and I think I see my children as kind of this in chain in the kind of thing. They can enjoy and move on. I think I don't want the wealth to be split up and get small and kind of thing. It is more to kind of this thing go on how we continue to build the engine to generate more benefit to the society overall is how I.
Manu, if you at some point decide to come into the business, what do you think might be an appropriate route for you, or what within the company you think you'd like to do so that you earn the respect of the organization, and they respect you for coming in and demonstrating your merit rather than coming in just by virtue of being your father's son?
So, first of all, with my current business, I would like to achieve my targets, my 5-year plan, and then probably take over a brand, manage that brand like a business head, and then take it forward. That's how I see myself getting in.
Okay, great. What lessons do you think you've learned from your father and the exposure that you get at the board that have you've been able to apply to your own business, and some of the things that have really worked for you from what you've picked up?
One important lesson, as he shared, I think that um, every board member has to be critical, and it's very important that you have people that are not related to the family being part of the board, because they add a lot of value and a different perspective. So, and also that indirectly has a big pressure on the promoter, because your efforts have a huge impact on the other shares. So being open to criticism and feedback is a big takeaway for me. So yes.
Great. Mr. Rangnath, you spoke about the family council. Can you tell us a little more about that? How do you set it up, and what would you advise people here who have family members who potentially need that sort of a structure?
It very much works in the models of ASCENT. So it's a forum. So within the normally in the family, we seldom discuss about individual feelings. It's more a one-way kind of a communication between parents to this thing, or less kind of a thing from children. So this talks about each one week. We meet every month, and today our meeting is at 6:30. After this, we are meeting as a family forum, and we each one of us will share on three different perspectives. It is on the self, what is my emotions, feelings, what am I going through, all these things, and from a business perspective, their businesses, what they are kind of the thing going through, and the family. So all three kind of perspectives, all the things we start sharing our thing. And I think there is also presentations we make kind of thing as to what is the kind of thing is the learnings or the new projects or some of the struggles I go through. I think they will make a presentation. I think each one will come back with our experience and will start kind of giving our viewpoint, which is without being judgmental. I think that's a very important thing. So you share from your experience or your perspective. If you were in that position, what you will do is very important than being more advisory kind of nature. I think that really helps. Sometime, okay, what I've learned, what are the failures, what is the kind of learning, all these things it's being talked about. So I think they start talking. It is a kind of indirectly, if you say, oh, you do things, it doesn't work. Because you come prepared like a typical thing. We come and make a presentation. This time I think Manu is making a presentation and my daughter is also. Both of them are going to make presentation on two different topics. So I think it's very important. Next month, it's a kind of thing. They are going to talk about two of the small failures. They're going to, like, what are the takeaway and learnings out of that. So then we also share about governing values. We have a governing value for myself, and what is the family governing values? What is their individual governing values? You talk about that. Then you talk about company values, kind of thing, like that.
Super. So, when you look around you, and maybe this question is also to Mr. Mariwala, which are the companies that you think have done an exceptional job as family managed businesses in the way in which they've managed the role of family members in the various aspects that you really respect the way in which they've made that transition and managed the role?
As a second generation, I admire Harsh himself. I must say that he has done a phenomenal job the way he has done. But having passed multiple generation, I think I have a lot of regard for Murugappa, the way they have done. This is the fifth generation who are running the show. I think that in Chennai, our own Chennai, that they are doing very well structured, governed, and they are going very strong. It's because they are strong. Nobody from a family member can come and rock the boat at all. The governing structure is so strong that I think it's not one single person can come and do anything on that. If you decide, you can walk out, is what I would say from a kind of thing. There are many other companies across India. I think Harsh can throw more light.
Subaya. Subaya. So I think they when you meet Mr. Subaya now, he's saying, I'm retired. I don't know. Don't ask me anything about business. But I think they do it extremely well, and I must say hats off to them in terms of how, as a large family, they've been able to manage for 5 generations.
Yeah, fifth generation.
So their processes and all must be. And I think that's become a case study actually.
Absolutely. They're one of the best case studies in India.
Internationally, from what I hear, something like Kargil also has been like more than 100 members are there, and only one or two members are in, or a few members are there in management. I am not able to think of any other names at this stage. Okay. But it's a different model. In my case, it is the role has shifted from actively promoter managed company to a strategic investor. So we call ourselves a strategic investor. So my son is on the board, but he's not involved. So there's nobody else from the family who's in the business. So the role of promoter is strategic investor. The third extreme is passive investor. You're not even at the board.
Only the ownership.
But here we are active. I'm the chairman. I review the performance with the team every month. I'm not a full-time person driving the performance, but I'm definitely involved in the strategic side of it.
Great. So
at Murugappa Group, I was told that the women decide who should be the next head of the group. All the women members.
So last question before I open it up is, any advice for family managed businesses that are beginning to look at bringing external funding in, how they should think about investors coming in, the role that they play, and so on and so forth?
I must say that first of all, an investor, however much they bring in, I think first you should not get a superiority complex of I hold majority share. I can only say what is kind of thing. Even a one share, I think they deserve all the kind of thing. You are answerable to them. I think that's very important thing. And then the transparency with which you operate with the shareholders and the kind of other board of directors is very important. They should be very comfortable in what's happening in the company. They are also betting, because nowadays the independent director is a very big responsibility. It's not like this thing. Anybody on the board is a big responsibility by itself. The laws have become far more stringent. And therefore, I think the comfort giving them the company governance are very, very good, and is on a good standard level. It's being done. It gives a lot of comforts to the attracting very good quality board of directors. Is one of the important things. The second thing I would say that you can't have a kind of this thing. It's one way. If you are not democratic, you will not succeed in this kind of this thing. It's a very important asking. So you need to be mentally and actually in action also democratic in terms of embracing multifacets of people, values, inputs, all these things. I think that is a very important asking. If you are not ready, I think I have seen few of my friends mentally go through pains, and say that why they are asking like that. I said they will ask. They've invested. They will ask all the questions. What's wrong in that? So I think that is very important thing. I've seen very close quarters of that. People go through that turmoil. If that is the case, don't try to make it a kind of thing. Don't widen it. Don't transition to a promoter and kind of thing. So I think it's very important that when you are making from a family to business, this thing, professional enterprise, belief what Harsh was talking about, the fundamental, if you don't have trust, I think everything will fall flat. Fundamentally, you need to believe that anybody you bring in kind of thing, you need to have that trust. And fortunately, that was abundantly kind of thing. It's in my nature. So if I am to kind of this thing, delegate somebody, recruit somebody who is not known, kind of thing, in other parts of country or outside, I am comfortable. So that's very important because a lot of people, if you look at from south, they don't even grow. Mainly, if you look at one of the Tamil Nadu kind of the thing culture, if you look at, you know Tamil a lot, but you don't know Hindi and all. You have to go. The belief system is itself is you versus me kind of thing. So first, I also did the similar kind of mistake. I did first of all in professionalizing. Look, I sent my accountant to head the show of one of Delhi branch. Disaster. So it is very important. So it is immediately comes in, okay, my person, Tamil somebody speaks, will be confident, I'll put kind of thing. And I said, okay, no, we will recruit somebody who is local. We will learn to believe people anywhere. So it's not that somebody knows you, known to you or the language they speak. I think that is a big change. Once you overcome that, I think no looking back. Very important. The belief and the trust you place on that is a very important thing for transition. If you don't easily believe people, I don't think you'll succeed.
So if I may add, I think I know that Ranga had given a stake, and you asked about the external investor to Chris Capital, and then he bought it back, if I remember, if I know it right.
Absolutely correct.
And then I think they are still continuing to be on your board, right?
You are right.
Because apparently I work with them as an advisor, so they told me, and they have very good words for him. I think they bought the stake, he bought it back, and they have such an extended relationship. They continue to be on his board. So he's getting a benefit. They also are apparently they are obliged to him for adding value. So it's gone beyond no more stake, but still continuing at the board level.
And they don't do it normally to anybody. They said nobody is permitted, they allow. I'm very happy that they made such kind of exception to us.
Super. We'll open it up for questions now. Just catch my attention and I'll, call on you to ask your question. If you'd prefer for either Manu or Mr. Rangnath or at the back there, we'll start.
Hi, I'm Praveen from both ASCENT and Thai. My question is to Manu. Now, you've come out of a family business and started something on your own. How comfortable are you talking about your success or failure with your dad or sisters in terms of setting up your own identity and your own business within a bigger framework?
Actually, I haven't even thought about it in that way. But even though he said that the best one will, take charge of the business, we don't interact in that way. But so my sisters and I, we constantly interact on how to improve. Like my younger sister, for example, she's an expert baker. She makes the best cakes, whatnot. And I actually don't know much about baking, but I'm in the bakery business. So I get a lot of input from her regarding products. So we are very comfortable in that way, to ask questions or, give feedback. Dad, I constantly talk to him at least twice a day. So if it's even the smallest thing, I ask him. But one good thing is, even though he invested in my company, he never forces me into anything. He's just an advisor from behind. I'm very lucky to have a dad like him. But I think that freedom is very important, because when there's a bigger picture in the long run, I think for a second generation who's about to, enter the family business, I think decision making is the most important under pressure. And if you're forced into making decisions without understanding, I think you'll never learn. So that's been a huge value add, and I'm very thankful to him in that way. He's always just been a mentor and an advisor.
My this thing is I don't force and tell you have to do only like that at all. It is up to them. It is if they want advice, if they come and seek my any kind of expert opinion, I will give. I don't push myself into their kind of thing. I am very clear right from day one, and that's how they will learn. Otherwise, they will kind of this thing every time they will come and ask me what is the next step, what is the next step. That's not going to work. Other thing I told all my three children is that I told them when I gave the capital, I told them I will be very happy uh, if you succeed, and doubly happy if you fail. The reason being, I tell you why I told that also. I told them very clearly. You will learn a lot more when you fail early, not when you grow up and fail. But your success will get into your head. Because it's important that you fail early and you will be a very solid platform, is what I would say, that kind of thing. And you will be much more cautious. That's a very important thing. So I'm happy that they're learning, and it's up to them. They don't call also this thing. I don't push myself. Oh, come on, let's have a kind of this thing. This is what it is. You tell me what is the kind of thing. Otherwise, I don't kind of thing. You do this. You don't do this kind of thing. You want people. You want some expert opinion available. You want to recruit on your own. You do it. So all these things are up to them.
But there's always a fixed monthly review, so there
And the
we
number
get torn apart sometimes. So.
That's investors will have a say. The performance.
and the numbers will speak for themselves, right?
I have,
Manik here.
I have a question. Okay.
Please go ahead.
So you were talking about this dinner debriefing that members are involved. How do you really start differentiating that? I mean, yeah, these dinner conversations really become so difficult after a period of time. So how are you drawing the line, and are you able to draw the line really?
So actually, if you look at the discussions will be made, because what it happens is what is happening around you daily, whether it is in business or this thing. That's where you have to bring back to the value system every time. Do you connect to the values? Every day is very important. So that I think makes them is easy for them to make a decision. So if you are very clear about your value system, most of the times your decision making process is easier. Simple decisions, but very complicated financial decisions, you may go through some kind of process and it will take some time. So to me, I think it is very important we connect every day. I'll ask my son and daughters also, what is so special about today? They'll say so and so in my company that they did like that. This is what it is. I have done this. All those things we bring it back eventually, kind of thing. Either way, how you deal with people or how kind of this thing. That's the kind of thing. They have dilemmas. They'll ask how we can do. Before I answer, the other sibling will answer, and that's very good. That's very important. They start jumping in because they learn each other kind of. Yeah, anywhere, I think what is very important is you don't talk all the time business. No, it's family also. You talk what is the kind of thing. I think it is good to kind of thing. It is not that every time as long as you relate to values, then it becomes personal. You bring back to values. No, you don't just purely talk about that. Is only a platform business. You bring back to values.
Chairman.
Thank you, Gans. My name is Monicarajendran from Thai. Question for you, Mano. You've grown up watching your dad, and you said YPO when you first attended. You asked some questions, you had some assertions. So, do you have close friends of your age? Do you strategize with them? How do you run your normal life? Because I mean, with your father, it's a totally different aspect. But then you also should have friends, right?
Yeah. So I am in two forums, ASCENT Forum and YPO Forum. So I have my own classmates who've started a business. So one is Sonny B, if you've heard, and Link. So We meet often, we talk a lot, we discuss. So
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I ask a contrarian question? It's a good idea to do your own thing, learn, experiment, and decide you want to come in. But if you look at the other way, one of the challenges that we have in a lot of our business is scale. You built it a certain size, but still, compared to a lot of other parameters, a lot of other countries, I think the scale is still a big challenge for us. Does it not make sense for you to actually get in and help your family business scale very well through all the family power onto it and do that? There are many ways you can do it. You can start with as an apprentice in the organization at the lowest level, work for 2 years, go.
Before he answer, I'll tell you.
Yeah, whichever way.
I don't feel the need of any family member coming and helping the business. Honestly, it is a professional. Anybody, the competent person with passion can do that. It need not be my kind of this thing.
Yeah,
What?
I mean, obviously it's contrarian question. So, given that this kind of business is a fairly long-term business, early involvement will mean that the scaling process happens faster.
Yeah, I was telling that in the beginning also. It need not be that they need to manage. That's a very important thing because that itself I am very open. I'm not thrusting upon them nor on the organization. I am equipping the organization to independently run. Each vertical is run by a CEO. So therefore, if they are coming in, they need to also understand what they will be kind of. I think like Harsh, what he said, they need to start a small one again in FMCG and try to prove themselves. Only then they have to run a vertical and grow on. So suddenly coming and sitting, probably you may not, if your depth is not there, the people won't respect. It's a professional world. The respect has to come not because of position, but because of who you are, what kind of a value you add to the business is very important. So I think that respect, if they earn, it will be very good. But not because I am the MD, I am the chairman, you do that, you have to respect me. I don't think that will go a long way. Those kind of businesses will soon disintegrate.
I think if I can draw on, you're at a stage now where you can afford the professionals. But a company which is smaller, where actually your family members are probably the best talent you can ever hire, does it make sense to actually involve the family members to help you to grow? Because you're not in a position where you can afford to attract those professionals, and you'll be like Mr. Mariwala was, where the professionals came, saw the office, and then ran away. What about that scenario? I don't know whether that was the sort of scenario you're talking.
Most of the time, if the emotions and the rules of the game is not drawn well, you will land into problem involving family members in the business. Is my viewpoint. A lot of business I have seen from close quarters of my friends and this thing. I think the family members, neither the children are not happy with the kind of thing. They say everything I have no freedom and kind of thing. You will see so many other kind of things. Very few things are there going on well with the parents. So my viewpoint is it depends on them. They need to believe, they need to kind of thing, and they want to. There should be mutual give and take, good governance, value structure. I think they can come and survive and thrive in the family business.
Well, I've worked in ITC for over 3 decades, so I've been on the other side. We have, working in a professional company, we have a lot of admiration for family run businesses, for their quick decision making powers. Without any clutter, you can move up the hierarchy and speak to the owner himself and get things made, because many of our competition is in that area also. So while we admired, my question to both of you is, what did you admire in professional companies? Or you didn't like?
So professional companies, I feel that they are built to last. Most of the time, if it is governed well, again, I think it's the board that matters a lot. And I think built well, I think we have seen that even whether it is, look at the way levers started, none of the family members own. It's all, most of the big companies are all held by private equity companies or the kind of this thing. It's all held worldwide, not by the families. A lot of businesses are held, diversely held. So the board has a very active board. They drive the professional team very crazy, and they are also rewarded if they achieve well. I think all these things are very important. The governance is in place, and there is a scrutiny by public, the analysts every quarter. I think all these things is a very important grilling. Otherwise, in a family business, whether I do perform or not, doesn't perform, it doesn't matter. Kind of a thing. If it is closely held, kind of thing. Only you have to just manage your family members. Whereas in a public limited company or a widely held thing, you are very, very answerable. I think it's a ruthless world. I think that's very important. That eventually brings out the best in you, is what I feel. The best talent only can prevail, they can only survive in that environment. And that's what I admire in a professional company.
I fully agree with him. In addition to what he's saying, I would say are lacking in a typically family managed company or in the initial phases. And in professional, the systems of process, sometimes they overdo it and give very little freedom to managers to use their own initiative or mental whatever contribution. So, but most of the time they have very good processes, which are again the whole objective is to build to last. So they will continue. This process will help them continue, and people will come and go. There'll be active job rotation, but the process will be so well laid out that it will go on running like a well-oiled machine.
What I don't like in the professional the large corporations is to a top level. It's very rare somebody would say that at a 35 years become the head of the organization kind of this thing. So you need to wait for your calls. I think that is one thing, and it is process orientation is good, but you can't be completely addictive to that. So many professional organizations of a large size doesn't foster entrepreneurship in the organization. So therefore, it is you have to be kind of a thing. You can't think out of the box. So that is also some of restriction. Though companies are time and again coming out, they are doing that kind of a thing. But even if you see, quite a lot of them are very rigid. If you look at the multinational companies, half the time people, very talented people who join there, they say, what am I doing here? They are paying very good salary. But eventually they all give me that I am just adapting an executive. I am not allowed to think freely. And what is required for India, I can't do that. And everything, even a small change, I have to get it German approval or US approval or any kind of this thing. That I think stifles the freedom and creativity of this thing, despite a very talented person. It's not the kind of thing, is what I would say.
I think for a start, we need to figure out our terminology also, because by implication, family managed businesses are unprofessional when we describe the others as professional. Whereas, Mr. Mariwala described a culture which was open and non hierarchical and that encouraged experimentation and entrepreneurship. And these are all and it was as professionally run as any other. So I don't know what's the right term, but I think we need to differentiate these things.
Large corporations, you can say. So, like, probably, I think Mr. Rashekar means ITC, levers, and such kind of things of that size is what
I think we're close to the end. If we have no other questions, we just want to say a huge thank you to ASCENT and Thai for organizing this and giving us the opportunity. But most importantly, huge thanks to Mr. Rangnath and to Manu for taking the time to speak honestly about their dynamics as a family and its implications for a business. So I just wanted to say thank you and give them a round of applause as a result.
Thank you.